For the last time this season, I'm at the outbuilding in the paddock, and previously you would have seen me do the roof and sort out the floor, but I'm storing equipment in here, and more I really need it to be secure. So to make it more secure and weatherproof, I might as well construct this fourth wall with a door in the middle. So my question to you is, how would you do that in the most economical way? Keep watching if you want to find out how I do it and exactly how much it cost me. So before we leave autumn and get into winter and potentially get some really bad weather, I might as well bite the bullet and put a front wall on this with a nice big door in the middle that I can get anything in or out of in the future. But it's no mean feat. Over 5 metres wide and 3 metres tall is a fair size wall, and will have to be fairly strong to counteract any wind loading. And also, because I'm in a semi-rural area here, I have to be a little bit sensitive to what it's going to finally look like. It wants to be timber to keep in with these buildings, and at the same time I don't want to spend too much money. So let's go into the workshop so I can describe to you my vision. So this is a quick sketch of what I'm dealing with. I've got a 5.2 metre opening and a 3 metre height on this roof, and the 6.2 CLS timber running from side to side, carrying all the corrugated sheeting. So quite a fair size, and as I said earlier, if the wind picks up, something of this size has got a fair amount of wind loading on it. So I need to fix to things that I can trust. And the two things I can trust here is this 6x2 CLS timber at the top, because I've only just installed it. And if I concrete anything into the ground, because I know I can get a really good fix in by concreting things into the ground. The walls, not so much, because these are existing timbers and I don't really want to put any more load on those at the moment. So I'll show you what I'm thinking. Just bear with me for a second. So my plan is to use timbers, concrete into the bottom, a little bit like fence posts, but then bolted to the 6x2 at the top. And the two middle ones, I'm going to use 4x4 timber. So that's fairly chunky, and that's very much like a fence post. These ones I use 4x2 as well. So these are the main supports in the middle that will also pick out the doorway. And then a couple of supports either side in the same way, but 4x2, just to support some feather edge as well, because this is about 2 metres wide, so feather edge boarding needs a little bit of support over a length of something like that. So that's mainly the structure and the skeleton of it that's well fixed at the top and fixed into the ground at the bottom. And then over all of that I'm going to cover with feather edge boarding, which will look a little bit like this. Just bear with me for a second. So that's what it's going to look like from the outside. I'm going to run feather edge board horizontally over the main area of the wall and vertically on the door, just to break it up so it makes it look a little bit different. At the bottom I'm going to have some, oh hang on a second, timber gravel boards that will probably be in contact with the soil, or definitely be in contact with the soil, but will last a few years, and after they rot then it's something that you can easily just take out and replace as well. So that's my vision, that's what I want it to look like. All we need to do now is make it happen. This is an interesting little project, as I'm not trying to make this area totally waterproof or 100% secure, and neither do I want something flimsy that's only going to last a couple of seasons and look out of place. I start by marking out and digging the holes for the posts, which is a lot harder than I thought it would be due to a thin layer of buried concrete a couple of inches down. This could be a very long project. Once I managed to get through this concrete, then I could really get on and dig the holes. Just over a year ago, I bought this roughneck post hole digger and narrow drainage shovel, which has been an excellent investment and has made digging holes like these so much easier. These 4x4 treated timbers are 3.6 metres long, so I've got 600mm or 2 foot in the ground with the rest going up to the beam above. Just another little tip, before you dig any holes, be prepared for the amount of material that's going to come out of them and for what we call the bulk-in factor. So if you take out a cubic metre of material, it will bulk up at least 50% depending on the material. So you'll end up with about 1.5 metres. So to play it safe, assume for every cubic metre you need space to store 2. Once I've made sure that the hole is large enough and in the right place to allow the post to sit plumb and in the right position, I fill the bottom of each one with gravel to help hold the timbers in place during concreting and to give a little bit of drainage right at the bottom. I found using this gravel really helps to make fine adjustments to the position and the level. The 4x2s I don't bury so deep as I don't need the strength from them, so I trim 300mm off the 3.6, meaning I don't need to dig such a deep hole. You'll notice that I'm putting the 4x2s on the flat here. They would be stronger on edge, but it doesn't really matter. I think they're already over-designed just to hold the feather edge, and in some ways I could get away with just using a smaller sized timber. With them clamped to the 6x2 at the top, it's really easy to get them all in a nice line. The only thing that does look out of place is when you compare them to the existing structure, but there's not much I can do about that. To save money, I do my normal trick of mixing concrete here rather than using post-mix material. Post-mix can be useful in certain circumstances, especially if you're trying to get strength quickly, but be aware it works out to about double the cost of a standard concrete mix. So to use it here, it cost me around about another £30. So I've left the concrete overnight to get some strength, and now these posts are in absolutely permanently. At the top of them are still only temporary clamps. But before I screw those to the 6x2, what I'm going to do is release all of those clamps, because I'm very well aware that during the concreting process these timbers were essentially hanging from the 6x2, so I would guess that there's a little bit of a deflection on it at the moment, which is fine, but doesn't really want to be there forever. So if I release all those clamps, it should bounce back to where it was before I started. Then I can screw them all in place, and in some ways that means that these timbers will give extra strength to that 6x2. With the concrete at the bottom now holding the posts, they tend not to go very far when the clamps are removed. For the two 4x4 posts in the centre, I use 4-inch coach bolts to bolt them together. And for the 4x2 timbers, I just use screws from the inside. So I can get some sort of decent seal at the bottom of the door, I fix a simple 4x2 threshold screwed in from either side. And with the bottom gravel boards fixed level either side of the door, It's just a matter of cutting and fixing the cladding. You'll notice here I've clamped a batten on the left-hand side of the frame that will make sure that all the boards line up exactly and give a 20mm step back from the edge of the post, which I think will look better than being flush with it. With the cladding up to height, I also fit the door header using a 4x2. And no, I'm not making a very low door that I need to duck underneath. Although you can't see it, I'm actually standing on a ½ metre high work platform. Above the door, I use longer boards that will stretch from one side of the building to the opposite side of the doorway, alternating them so the joints are staggered on each row. When you work with long material on your own at height, everything just tends to take a lot longer. These boards are 150mm deep and I'm using a 25mm overlap, so they're showing 125mm. So the last board I cut down to 125 just so it looks the same depth as all the rest. Moment of truth. Although it's easy to make a door the right size using half-lap joints, it's always a relief when you first offer it up and it actually fits. I made this in the workshop, and if you're interested in how to make a sturdy half-lap joint like this that's properly braced, then please take a look at one of my previous videos, how to make an easy garden gate. Link above and in the description below. With one side of the gate hinges bolted to the door, I put it in place and shim and clamp it so I have my planned 10mm gap all around the perimeter before fixing the pin side of the hinges onto the frame. So all I need to do now is clad the door and put the lock on. So while I'm doing that, I'll explain to you exactly how much this cost me. So quickly running through the costs for this project. All the timber framing materials like the 4x2, the 2x2 and the 4x2 CLS for the door came to £112. The 54 pieces of feather edge boarding of various lengths were £128. The 2 gravel boards that touch in the ground and in time will rot but can be easily replaced were £4 each. Materials to make the concrete came to £31, and various screws and fixings, which is a bit of a guesswork because I already had some from previous projects, I estimate to be £20. The hinges, lock and handle all came to £56, making a total of £355. With the door clad, I finished off by adding some trim as a doorstop all around and a lock and handle to make it secure, and I think the whole thing came out rather well and actually looks probably better than I thought it was going to. Nice. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please remember to subscribe and to go and check out our Patreon page, and I'll see you next time. Hello? I think I'm going to have to put some lights in here.